What's up, Mortgage Coach community? Dave Savage. I'm coming to you live out of Seattle. Tina, sorry, not Tina, but Michelle. And sorry for being a little bit late to our interview, but at least we're getting after it now.
You're all good.
Good. So I'm excited to interview you and Nicole, your production partner, and talk about your Mortgage Coach story. So why don't we start? I already know the answer, but I want the community to hear it. You know, how many loans did you all close last month?
33.
33. And how far out of Dallas are you?
60 miles north. I'm almost in Oklahoma. Like, I could shake my hand with Oklahoma.
Yeah. It's closer than Dallas is.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's closer to Oklahoma than Dallas. And then this month you guys are, trending to go over 40 loans this month?
Yes, sir.
So that's a lot of families served, and I am proud to say they are served at a higher level now that they're getting a total cost analysis versus a fee worksheet. Would you guys agree with that much?
Absolutely. Yeah. And it's informed decisions now.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, good. Helping them build wealth with real estate, and knowing that you guys are pretty new to the Mortgage Coach team. I'm going to look at what you guys have here, give some feedback, and then, my goal is, while we're doing this for Guild, you guys, heard about Mortgage Coach when we rolled it out to everyone, but I'm going to make this live for the whole Mortgage Coach community, because I always think it's valuable when someone goes from fee worksheets, doing a lot of production, so you're very busy, to Mortgage Coach. So let's talk about that. Like, when did you first hear about it? How long ago was that?
I was at our sales event in Dallas in February. So it took us a couple of months to get signed up and really started.
Yeah.
Good. And what would you say is the why you decided to go from, not using Mortgage Coach to using it? What was the why that really drove this change of behavior?
Our system within Guild is not, it's just difficult to provide multiple estimates.
Yeah.
And, just as soon as you figure it out this way, then the customer wants this scenario. And then you spend all of this time putting together all these scenarios, and then they get all of these PDFs emailed to them, and they're so confused, and you've spent so much time putting all that together. It's just not efficient at all.
Also, on the loan cost estimates themselves, like the ones we generate through our system and not through Mortgage Coach, they take 10, 15 minutes to generate just one. So like I can set up 4 payment scenarios in 15 minutes through Mortgage Coach, when it's going to take me an hour to set up 4 payment scenarios through our system, and they're more confusing that way.
Boom.
Got it. So one of the reasons was just it was more efficient to deliver options with Mortgage Coach. Yeah. But I mean, there had to be a bigger why than that, because not everybody asked for options. So you could just give someone a fee worksheet and some of, out of 30 some odd loans that you guys closed, that you guys have only been doing it for a couple months now, and you're up to 100 TCAs.
It's important to me that my team help the customer make informed decisions. And providing just one option does not do that. And most of the time people think they know what they want, but when you start presenting other ideas and other options to them, it makes them think. And I wanted to be that, if I'm going to compete against somebody, I want them to compete with information. I want to provide them more than what they're getting somewhere else. I don't want to just stuff them into our program and provide, just basic information. I want to educate and help them through that process. So that's why this was super important. They think they know what they want, but they don't until you really educate them.
Well, and this is a theme I've seen with a lot of top producers. Your goal is not just to give people what they want, it's to educate them, it's to enlighten them. It's like, hey, they came to you thinking one thing, and then they had a conversation, you showed options, and they end up with something better. You taught them something. So I think that's important. If your goal is to just deliver a transactional experience, you don't need Mortgage Coach. If your goal is to get someone to think about things in a different way and educate them in a way to build wealth with real estate faster, then you really need to use a total cost analysis.
And what really pushed it for us was with interest rates shifting. Yeah. And it shifted that conversation away from rate, which at the end of the day doesn't really matter. Rate's not what matters. What matters is what are your long-term and short-term goals, and how do we help you achieve that? And so, from a wealth building standpoint, it's not always about the rate. And this allows us to demonstrate that in a visual way. So
cool.
That's another thing.
So let's talk about implementation, because you saw it and you're like, this is a better way to do things. Let's do it. And it's not like it just happened. And what was it that changed things from like, hey, you had a month or two where it didn't get done, and then here we are 2 months into using Mortgage Coach, and Nicole has made the change happen. Like, if you could just give us that, what's the story that finally got success?
Well, I'm very competitive, and I see people post these really cool videos explaining things on Facebook, and I'm like, oh, wow, that's really cool. We could do that too with our customers. So then it was easier for me to tell Nicole to figure it out than it was for me to get it there and figure it out. So then the next was, okay, you're young, you're smart, you figure it out, and then show me how you do it. So
love it. And Nicole, how did you feel about that? Like, was it when she first said you need to figure it out, were you stoked about it, or was it like?
We have a very complicated CRM, and like we are super on top of our clients, but like there's like a 12-step process and just sending a pre-approval letter. And my pushback on it was, I don't want more work to do. Like, this is just more work for me to do. I don't want to do it. And so we argued about it for a couple of weeks, and finally we lost the deal on something. And she was like, if you would have done this, we wouldn't have lost it. And I was like, she's not right. I'm going to do this and prove her wrong. And then I did it, and I really liked it. And I was like, okay, I'm going to figure this out. I really enjoy it. I think as far as the clients go, like I have much better feedback when I send this over. Their questions aren't interest rate based. They're like, okay, well, I'm seeing these monthlies. Like, what about this program? Or they have questions about closing and like seller concessions, opposed to being like, I want a 3, I want a 4. It took the conversation away from rate, which is huge for us.
I love that. And this is real world, guys. Anybody listen to this, have you ever been the leader of a team? You told someone on your team to do something. They saw it. They perceived it as something that was going to take more time. And, it never happens sometimes. And sometimes it happens where, it takes a couple weeks of friction, and it takes a lost loan, or it takes something, bad to happen. So here is one piece of advice for any team watching this. If you're a team leader, really put some time into the ask. I interviewed John Downs, and I'm going to put a link down below, but it was his story, because he was a guy who had heard about Mortgage Coach for years. He'd even bought it a few times and never used it. And he kind of tells his, like, I bought it, I never used it. I know I should, but I didn't. And then he has his why, and he's competitive. He heard of top producers like, oh, Josh Vettel uses it. Oh, Todd Bookstead uses it. Oh, and he finally is like, okay, I have to make this happen. And then he tells his story. So listen to that. And then I would just recommend everybody, as a team leader, I do think you need to delegate it to someone, and someone that is going to get it done, but you need to get their buy-in. And I do think there's a way to do that. It's probably different with every team. Some assistants look at Mortgage Coach and go, game on, this is going to save me time and I like it. And some, it takes, how many times did you need to create one before you finally were like, oh, okay, I'm on it?
To be totally honest, the first one that I did took me like 40 minutes. I was like all confused, and I was like, I don't like this. And I was going back, making sure all my fees are right. And I was like, no, this isn't effective. And then as soon as I got it where I needed it to be, and I was looking at the side-by-side comparison, and I was like, all right, I kind of like it. And so the second time I did it, I said it probably took me like 30 minutes. So like I was still making sure I have everything right. And now that we have all our programs set up in there, how we need them to be and how the costs need to be, it's literally, it's 15 minutes. And the thing that I love is that you can go back to it. So it probably took me like 4 tries before I felt like I knew where I was going. Now I feel like I can whip one out in like 10 minutes, but it's a matter of like, my favorite part about this is not only do I send you one TCA for like when you just start shopping, once they're under contract, I come back and update my original one and just change all the fees on there. So I'm like, okay, this is what I can lock you in at. It's a side-by-side comparison of all that. And it's like, it's so easy to go back into because that payment scenario was already in there. And with the copy it from the template program, that's like, I don't know why people wouldn't use it.
Yeah. Have you guys experimented with the strategy templates yet in the new advice engine? Have you seen that?
No.
Okay. Well, we're going to make sure you see it. Anybody listening to this, there is a new feature in Mortgage Coach called strategy templates. And so what you could do is you could go into a client where you've already done a total cost analysis, let's say it's an MI analysis. I don't know if you do a lot of MI analysis or down payment analysis, and you can just go into that client and turn it into a strategy template, and you could name that my MI analysis template or my FHA versus conventional template. And now we really built it for speed. So now you'll have this, like recent customers, and there'll be a new tab called strategy templates. And you just click that strategy template, and trust me, you'll be able to create one in like 1 to 3 minutes. So,
Awesome.
so check that out. Well, let's do this. I call these mortgage strategy interviews because I want to get some sales strategy, and I also want to show a TCA. So in a minute, I'm going to ask you to share your desktop. But before I do that, I want to hear how you describe it. And I don't know if it's you, Nicole, like who actually walks a client through a total cost analysis?
We do. So Michelle, kind of our process here, Michelle brings in everything. It's her job to generate, right? So like it's our job to make it happen. She brings it in, we figure it out, and then once we figured it out, we loop her back in for personal touch. So like I will set this up, I will go through this with the client, and then I will assign Michelle a task and say, hey, you need to follow up with these people, say congratulations, and let me know if you have any further questions. And if they do, she forwards them directly back to me. So they feel like she's involved the whole time when it's more so the team, and then we loop her back in.
Okay, real quick, and I don't want to go down a rabbit trail, but I do want to unpack this because you've got a team that did 34 loans last month, and you're planning to do north of 40 this month. What is the size of the team, if you don't mind me asking?
4 of us. I mean, 4
Okay.
of them plus me.
Okay, so you have 4 folks that you generate the leads, you have the realtor partnerships, the builder relationships, you're making it rain with mortgage opportunities, and then they are having the client consultations and managing the transaction.
Correct.
Okay, so then I am gonna ask Nicole more questions right now than I am you, Michelle, because she's the one doing it. So, one quick, before I do that, Michelle, how do you position Mortgage Coach with your realtors and your partners? Have you told them about it? Have you described it to them at all?
No, what we've been doing is CCing them in the emails so that they are receiving that as well and can see that we're providing that +1 that no one else is providing in this area.
Ooh, the +1. So you're calling it, you have told them that we're going to start giving more value, and I don't know if you're calling it the +1, but you're somehow adding value to your realtor partners.
Right.
And it's by CCing them.
We're different. Yeah.
Okay. All right. So let's go to you, Nicole. Before you show the total cost analysis, how do you position it with the client? They're going to get a what? And give me like 30 seconds to a minute on that.
Yeah. So I start off with I call them before I send this out to see like what their main goal is, because how I'm going to set this up is going to depend on their goal. Like if their goal is they don't care about their monthly, they care about their funds to close, like I'm going to set this up giving them the most options in that aspect. So we always have that phone call, like going over their goals. And then on that call, let them know, okay, so this is what I'm going to do for you. Like we have more than one option we can offer you. I'm going to send you a side-by-side comparison, and I want you to look those over and pay attention to what is most important to you. So look that over and see, like, is it really worth it to me to come to closing with $3,000 less, but pay an additional $200 a month? And so we kind of go over those options, and I let them know that they're getting a side-by-side not total cost analysis, just because I feel like it's a little bit wordy, and they're already like, most of our clients, home buyers, they're first-time home buyers, and the more I give them, the more nervous they get. So I always say side-by-side comparison is going to go over all your options, and then I do let them know. So our market, I feel like, is a little bit older and not necessarily as tech-friendly. Like we're small-town Texas, and so I was having a hard time getting them to click on the link. I actually took screenshots of the summaries, and so what changed that for us? We use BombBomb. And I do an instructional video where I'm not only talking about their total cost analysis, I'm clicking through it so they know, oh, I'm going to click through it. It's literally monkey see, monkey do. And since we started doing that, they've all been filling them out, or at least checking them out.
Good. So I love that. And I love your scripting and your positioning. I think that, big takeaway for everybody's list, you hear that she's finding out what the client's goals are. Did you by any chance hear the interview I did with Shayla, where it was Shayla Gifford's perfect pre-purchase experience?
Right.
Would you say that your process mirrors that to some extent?
Right.
Okay, so you're doing that. Well, let's do this. Let's pull up the screen and let's look at a total cost analysis.
Okay.
And let's, if you could kind of describe the family story, like what was the selling situation that you were in, or the advice situation, and then, what did you put together here from a numbers perspective?
So,
and I'll tell you when I see the TCA.
Yes, and I just clicked, I think I did something incorrectly. And
Okay, no problem. Well, we had a plan B here, remember? So I'm going to pull up it on my screen.
Good.
So stay tuned here. Boom.
Yeah, and then go to share.
And here we go. You can see it on my screen?
Yes, go right ahead.
Okay, good. All right, so make note, everybody. We've got, company brand here. We've got, loan officer, team leader brand here. Tell us what we're looking at here. We've got 4 different programs.
Yes. So one thing.
What was the?
Go ahead.
Go ahead. No, you go ahead. You go ahead.
So as far as the 4 programs go here, this particular client was really interested. She didn't necessarily say which one she wanted to go with, whether it was a lower monthly payment or lower cash to close. She basically was like, look, I just want to see my options as far as like first-time home buyer programs go or down payment assistance goes. And so we're like, okay, well, this is what you're going to be looking at. And so we have a program here that's like a special program. It's a Guild exclusive that gives her a lender credit. So I showed her that program, and each one of these programs, like in our opinion, like you can always ask for seller concessions. So if I'm only showing them 2 programs, I'm always going to show them with and without seller concessions, because that's money that we want them to ask for if they can ask for it. So I showed her what it would be like with seller concessions and without seller concessions, just so she can kind of see. And then I also gave her the monthly payment comparison, because like we could go with the down payment assistance program, but your monthly might be a little bit higher.
Got it. I can see what you did, and I noticed you highlighted this one. Is this the one you thought that was going to be the recommended solution?
That was the one that, from what she described that she wanted, that was what she was most leaning towards. But she didn't think she was going to be able to get seller concessions on that house. So I was like, okay, well, if you need to keep it, she wanted to keep her cash to close at 35 or less. I was like, if that's your option, this is the route that you need to go, because none of the other options are going to get you there if you can't get seller concessions.
Got it. Well, I love what you did. And how long would you say it took for you to put that together?
I mean, it's literally 10 minutes, because on the 3-2-1, it's just, I set that one up, and then the one that says SC, all I did was copy that over and add seller concessions into the total, like into the closing cost screen. So, I mean, it's literally 10 minutes or less.
All right. Well, I'm going to show you how you could have done this a little bit faster with our advice engine.
Yay.
So you see this little button right here, strategy templates. So what I'm going to recommend is seller concessions or down payment assistance. You'll have different strategy templates. First time home buyer, that could be like a rent versus own, different fixed products. Here's an MI options, because sometimes different MI options could take some time. And now all you'll need to do is you'll need to click that and go copy new client, and voila, that scenario that, took you 10, 15 minutes to create, it's done. It's created. You've got all those scenarios in one place. Yes. So, here's the little button where you just click, is this a strategy template? And if you want to turn it into a strategy template, you turn it into a strategy template. Do you follow me?
Yeah.
Yes, love it.
Yeah, so here is that scenario. Of course, I haven't put loan amounts in or done any of that information. So you would need to go into each one and put in, the details on it. Mm-hmm. But hopefully you kind of get the idea of how that could save you some time.
Definitely.
Okay, so you guys knew you were going to be coming on the Mortgage Coach, YouTube channel to bring value to the community. Any just advice or inspiration you have for other loan officers, whether it's an individual loan officer that just needs to do their own total costs, or whether it's a team leader? Any other words of advice?
I think not really words of advice, but something that's super helpful is knowing when they're watching and how long they're watching, just kind of watching that behavior, the buyer behavior behind the scenes, makes a big difference on when you're following up with that client. You know, I mean, it helps you with that conversation and when to have that conversation. And that's one thing we talk about a lot, because I'm always trying to figure out, okay, what is the buyer thinking? Like, when are they looking at this information, or what is their thought process? Well, the fact that you can see that they open and then they close it, and then they open it a little bit longer, a little bit later down, you know, that same day, and then that evening they open it, and you can tell that it's probably this, you know, the husband and wife or the partners on this decision-making process sitting down and reviewing that information. It just helps a lot. And then maybe you follow up with them, and then you don't hear from them for weeks, and then all of a sudden you see that they open again. It's just a great indicator that, hey, wait, they're thinking again, and they haven't been returning our phone calls. So, I mean, all of this information is super important, and help figure out when you need to be reaching back out to them to have those conversations.
Yeah, and then I don't know if you've been using it long enough to realize it, but when you've pre-approved someone, you know when they're looking at it, and then you can also just text them, hey, you know, would you like me to change, you know, the down payment, or you see any different purchase prices, or hey, rates just went down, would you like me to update your pre-approval with the lower rates? And you can just do that, you know, via a text, or I don't know if you guys saw that interview I did with Brian Manley, another Guild loan officer in Boulder, but you know, he's doing a lot of text videos and mortgage coach videos. So Nicole, what about you? Anything that you want to share with your peers to wrap it up?
Favorite thing about it is we have a lot of clients who are like what I would call stuck in their ways, like people who have a spouse that has poor credit, but they want their spouse and loan to build that credit. I'm like, you don't understand what this is going to cost you. And with the side-by-side analysis, I mean, they can see it right there. Like, hands down, this is going to save you $5,000 at closing because your interest rate is lower and there's no hit for a fee. The other thing that I really like about it is if we're being shot by someone, one, I get to send them this, and the payment scenario I put in there is what I'm willing to offer and what they're getting quoted by somebody else. And I will physically put in the other quote and show them how they're paying less with us because they're not charging them points. They're hidden fees. They're like sneaking it in here and there. Because a lot of people don't want to believe what they see in the email. They're like, no, you're hiding something. I'm like, no, I'm not. And I can show you. Look at this. And so it's for that.
And also a tip for everybody watching this, a classic mortgage coach strategy in our community is, let's say you're competing against someone that has a lower interest rate and you're not cheaper. You know, they'll look at the monthly payment. Let's say you're 0.3% off. It's probably less than again, depending on the loan amount, but it's probably less than $5,000 over 5 years. Mm-hmm. And so now you go from, hey guys, I know that they have a lower rate, but I'm assuming you gave a better experience. They really like you. Yeah. They want to do business with you. You say the cost over 5 years. And I've interviewed a lot of loan officers where, you know, they really don't have to give a price exception until it really gets to be a big number over 5 years. So I'm going to put a link down below to that interview too. It's with Jason Nutzman, where his loan officers, the ones that use Mortgage Coach, literally pay a lot less in price exceptions. It's single digits in basis points over the year versus loan officers that don't use Mortgage Coach have a lot more price exceptions. So check out that link down below. So let's wrap this up. So Nicole, how long have you been in the mortgage business, or you know, how long have you been doing this as a production partner?
On just mortgage side, or like mortgage in general? Like on the sales side?
Mortgage in general.
Okay, about 3 years.
And then how long on the sales side?
It's going to be 2 in 2 months.
Nice. Well, you got 2 years, and let's face it, there are going to be some loan officers that are watching this that they're like 2 months into it, or they're in their 6 months. What advice do you have for new loan officers getting into the business, knowing what you know today, now that you're 3 years into it, 24 months, you know, helping in production? Any advice?
My advice is to be honest with your clients, because anytime you're sitting there and you're rattling off all these numbers, hoping they're not paying attention because you don't know what you're talking about, just be honest with them. Because if you tell somebody, look, like, I don't know the answer, but let me find out. I want to be completely accurate with you. I don't want to lie to you. Let me find out. And then you come back and you provide them with a total cost analysis that's accurate. You don't have to make corrections. It just works out so much better in the long run, other than making something up and then having to come back and figure out an excuse to figure out why you made it up. So just be honest with people, even if you don't know what you're talking about.
Love that. And then Michelle, obviously, how long have you been doing this? You've been doing it longer?
23 years.
So 23 years. I mean, to be closing over 30 units last month at 40. I mean, you're not in the top 1%. You're like in the top, fraction of 1% in the business. What advice do you have for either? And I'm going to ask you this question a little differently,
Okay.
where it could be someone who's new in the business in their first year, and they've never really had a big month, and it could be someone that's struggling. They're like can't get over 5 or 8 loans a month in consistent production, but new to struggling loan officers. What advice do you have?
What I see and what I wish that I had learned way earlier in my career is it's really all about processes and systems. And we all see people that have ways of doing business, but you need to figure out what works well for you and stick with it and do it the same way every single time so that the level of service that you provide is what people expect and you do it over and over and over and over. I think sometimes we get overwhelmed. If you look at someone like myself that has a team and there's so much more I can do because I can leverage people that it gets super overwhelming. And I think new loan officers or loan officers trying to get over that hump commit to doing too much, and then they can't consistently provide the level of service that they promised to provide because they just overcommitted. So you just get overwhelmed. Just do the basics really, really well in your business.
Yeah, no, I agree. And they chase too many shiny lights. And here's, I'm going to give this last piece of advice to anybody that's struggling. Shayla's perfect pre-approval process. Tim Brahim's perfect loan process. And you go listen to all my top producers that I interview. It's like they have this perfect loan experience that whether they have a team or don't have a team, that they implement consistently. And so if you have Mortgage Coach, go all in with Mortgage Coach. If you don't deliver it to every single family, you don't make it part of your process, you have basically decided to be like, I'm going to be good, maybe good enough, but you're not going to get great. You only get great if you do the same thing every time for every customer. So go all in. If you got value from today's interview, give us a like. If you loved it, I loved it, I'm going to give this little love button in Facebook and share this with your mortgage friends. And guys, it's been a great interview. Looking forward to hearing your story unfold, and thank you so much.
Thank you. High five. Thanks.